What if your favorite yellow cartoon family knew more about the future than we did? From jaw-dropping political predictions to space tourism and even wildfires, The Simpsons has a knack for turning outrageous gags into uncanny glimpses of reality. Is it luck, satire, or does Springfield hold the world's weirdest crystal ball? World War III.
Buddy, it's World War III!
Once again, The Simpsons are making people wonder, do they have a crystal ball, or are they just that good? Fans are buzzing about how the show might have predicted World War III. Indeed, Springfield's beloved yellow family is back, drawing eerie parallels between their episodes and the chaos in real life. Take that blink-and-you-miss-it news scroll about Eastern European conflict. Back then, it was probably just a throwaway gag, but now, it feels uncomfortably on point. And then there's the scene where Springfield residents are running nuclear fallout drills. Sure, it was a cheeky nod to Cold War paranoia, but with today's nuclear jitters, it hits way too close to home. These little moments have people asking, are the writers just masters of spotting historical patterns? Or is it all just freaky coincidences? Either way, The Simpsons have this uncanny knack for turning our collective fears into something hilariously memorable. They always seem to hit the cultural nerve at just the right time. Whether they're forecasting the future or merely reflecting our fears, it's undeniable that The Simpsons continue to hold a strange, humorous, and occasionally uncomfortable relevance. Let's just hope they're wrong about the whole World War III thing, okay? After all, what better way to escape global conflict than by blasting off into space? Space tourism. Once a realm of science fiction, space travel is now on the brink of becoming a reality. Companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic are racing to turn space tourism into a reality. While billionaires are already venturing into orbit, the rest of us can only hope to secure a ticket in the future. Naturally, The Simpsons predicted this. In Deep Space Homer, NASA sends Homer to space, resulting in chaos, floating potato chips, a near disaster, and more. Back then, the idea of an average person in space was a joke. Now, it's not so crazy. Okay, maybe not Homer, but regular people in zero gravity doesn't seem that far off. But space tourism is just the beginning. Mars has become the next big dream. Not just visiting, but living there. SpaceX is already planning colonies, and thousands of people have signed up for one-way trips. Yes, one way. They're ready to leave Earth for good. And The Simpsons tackled that too. In one episode, Lisa signs up for a Mars mission, and Marge follows to keep her safe. The whole family joins in, because why not? After a failed takeoff, Lisa and Marge finally make it to Mars, but Lisa decides she wants to move to Venus instead. Classic Lisa. The big question is, are we ready? Space travel and Mars colonies sound amazing, but there are risks, massive costs, and environmental concerns to consider. Still, the dream of space is alive, and whether we're snapping selfies with Earth as the backdrop or building homes on Mars, it's clear humanity is reaching for the stars. However, while some of us yearn for space, others question whether Big Brother is monitoring us in our own homes. NSA surveillance. The Simpsons seem to have a sixth sense for pointing out where society is headed, and their perspective of government monitoring was no different. In the Simpsons movie, Marge and the family are on the run, and their every step is being tracked by a massive NSA surveillance system. At the time, it felt like a hilarious exaggeration of government overreach. But just a few years later, Edward Snowden's revelations about the real-life NSA proved the joke wasn't as far-fetched as we thought. From phone records to online activities, Snowden revealed in 2013 papers exposing how the NSA was gathering enormous volumes of data on US nationals. Suddenly, the Simpsons scene where an NSA worker casually eavesdrops on Marge didn't seem so funny anymore. It sparked questions about privacy, the balance between security and freedom, and just how much our government knows about us. Today, debates about surveillance continue, with governments using advanced technology like facial recognition and AI monitoring systems. So, was The Simpsons just joking, or did they hit a nerve about how much of our lives are truly private? The idea of being constantly watched feels less like satire and more like reality every day. From being watched to wondering if we're being outsmarted, let's talk about AI, shall we? The rise of AI. Whether the Simpsons are predicting the future or just giving us a satirical look at our biggest fears, it's hard not to wonder what else they've gotten right, or what might still be coming true. One area that has fans buzzing is their take on artificial intelligence. In Treehouse of Horror 99, there's a segment where robots, initially created to serve humans, turn against their creators in a chaotic uprising. At the time, it felt like a playful riff on sci-fi tropes, but now, with AI advancing faster than anyone expected, it hits a little differently. Between concerns about AI taking over jobs and debates over its role in weaponry, the episode's humor feels eerily close to reality. Even Homer, in his clumsy way, stumbles into questions we're all asking now. What happens when technology becomes smarter than we are? The Simpsons' perspective may exaggerate the risks for amusement, yet it resonates with a growing apprehension about the swift emergence of AI. Whether it's autonomous robots or algorithms shaping our lives, the show once again manages to reflect a world that's inching closer to what seemed impossible, or at least the stuff of comedy sketches not that long ago. A burning dollar. Check out the Burns Cage episode where Springfield's economy crashes, jobs disappear, and the whole place goes totally nuts. Doesn't it kind of remind you of the financial messes from 2008, or even the economic vibes we're getting today? Hey, remember that whole mess back in 2008? The housing market crashed, dragging the global economy along for the ride. Money disappeared, jobs disappeared, and everyone was left wondering, what just happened? It felt like Springfield had jumped off the screen, with money guys making wild choices, and regular people stuck handling the fallout. So, here we are today, with inflation on the rise, markets a bit shaky, and talk of another recession in the air. Feeling like we've been here before? Sure, The Simpsons played it for laughs, with their signature over-the-top chaos. But here's the thing, they nailed a brutal truth. Financial systems, fragile. And when they fall apart, it's the regular folks who get crushed under the rubble. So, could we be heading for another financial train wreck? Who knows? But if it happens, don't say The Simpsons didn't see it coming. They always do. Donald Trump presidency. When The Simpsons joked about Donald Trump becoming president and Bart to the future, it was meant to be just that, a joke. But in 2016, life imitated art when Trump actually became the 45th president of the United States, leaving fans stunned. How could a satirical show about a yellow cartoon family foresee something so unexpected? The episode wasn't just a throwaway gag either. Lisa becomes president after Trump, and she specifically mentions inheriting quite a budget crunch from his administration. Fast forward to real life, and discussions about deficits, policies, and the economic fallout of the Trump years feel like eerie echoes of that episode. What makes the prediction even spookier is how specific some details turned out to be. For example, in 2015, a meme surfaced comparing an animated scene of Trump on an escalator to his real-life campaign launch. The similarities were uncanny, right down to the waving and hand gestures. Of course, The Simpsons writers aren't prophets. They've said Trump's presidency was chosen as the most absurd scenario they could imagine at the time, so absurd that it couldn't possibly happen. And yet, it did. The real question isn't whether The Simpsons predicted the future, but why it seems so plausible in hindsight. What does it say about politics, media, or even society that something once considered a punchline became a reality? Self-driving cars. The Simpsons always seems to have a knack for poking fun at the future, and their take on autonomous vehicles is no exception. In Beyond Blunderdome, Homer gets behind the wheel. Well, technically not behind the wheel of a self-driving car. At the time, it felt like a ridiculous scenario, but today, it's not so far-fetched. Fast forward to the real world, and companies like Tesla, Waymo, and Cruise are racing to make autonomous vehicles the norm. The promise? A world where traffic accidents are a thing of the past, and humans can kick back while AI handles the stress of the road. But reality has proven to be a bit bumpier. From cars getting confused by tricky intersections to headline-grabbing crashes, the tech is still very much a work in progress. It makes you wonder, are we ready for self-driving cars, or are they more like Homer's chaotic test drive? Until these vehicles stop having their dough moments, keeping one hand on the wheel might not be such a bad idea. Disney buying 20th Century Fox. Leave it to the Simpsons to predict yet another major cultural shift. In When You Dish Upon a Star, there's a blink and you'll miss it moment where 20th Century Fox is shown with a sign reading a division of Walt Disney Co. At the time, it was just a cheeky gag, poking fun at Disney's growing media empire. But in 2019, life caught up with art when Disney officially acquired 21st Century Fox in a $71.3 billion deal. Once again, the Simpsons were ahead of the game. Disney's purchase brought iconic properties like The Simpsons, X-Men, and Avatar under the same roof as Star Wars and Marvel. Suddenly, Disney wasn't just the king of animation. It was a global media powerhouse with a grip on almost every genre imaginable. The move also sparked debates about media monopolies. Is Disney creating a golden age of interconnected storytelling, or are they just gobbling up competition? Love it or hate it, the deal reshaped Hollywood, and The Simpsons found themselves predicting their own future as part of the Disney family. Weed legalization. In Weekend at Burnsies, Homer is prescribed medical marijuana to help with his eye pain after being attacked by crows. What follows is a trippy comedic journey as Homer discovers the benefits of his prescription. At the time, this storyline felt like the show was testing the waters of a hot-button issue. Fast forward, and cannabis legalization is sweeping across the globe. Today, countries like Canada and states across the US, including California and Colorado, have fully legalized marijuana for recreational use. Medical marijuana is even more widely accepted, with people turning to it for everything from pain relief to anxiety management. What once was a fringe movement has become a multi-billion-dollar industry, with dispensaries popping up like Starbucks. But the debate isn't over. Legalization brings questions about regulation, public health, and even corporate greed as big businesses muscle in on what was once a grassroots movement. Still, The Simpsons nailed it. The shift in attitudes toward cannabis is undeniable, and Homer's stoner adventure feels less outrageous and more like a preview of the cultural transformation we're living through. And while Homer found relaxation in his prescription, celebrity life is rarely so chill, as P. Diddy would know. P. Diddy. The Simpsons has this freaky talent for turning wild humor into something that feels weirdly real, and their jabs at over-the-top celebrity parties are no exception. In The Burns Cage, there's a quick gag about ridiculous celebrity extravagance that feels like it was made with P. Diddy in mind. I mean, have you seen his legendary white parties? A-list guests, ridiculous opulence, and just enough scandal to keep the tabloids busy. It's like a Springfield fever dream brought to life. But what happens when the champagne and glitter turn into headlines? Over the years, Sean Diddy Combs has found himself at the center of plenty of drama, from wild party antics to accusations tied to his events. Diddy's name has been splashed across the news for all the wrong reasons more than once. While The Simpsons didn't exactly predict Diddy's white party chaos, their satire of celebrity excess hits way too close to home. Fires in LA. Springfield, in the Little Big Girl episode of The Simpsons, must contend with a large wildfire, endangering the town and its citizens. In one of his pranks, Bart unintentionally causes a fire that rapidly spreads out of control, underscoring the fragility of societies against natural events. Particularly in the Los Angeles region, the sequences in this episode have striking similarity to the terrible wildfires that have dogged California over the past 10 years. The episode showcases the rapid spread of the fire, the destruction of property, and the relentless efforts of firefighters to contain the blaze. These elements mirror the real-life challenges faced during the recent California wildfires, where dry conditions and strong winds have led to widespread devastation. The portrayal of the community's response, including evacuation efforts and the mobilization of emergency services, also reflects the real-world scenarios that have unfolded during these disasters. Although The Simpsons is well known for its comedic approach of social concerns, this episode reminds us of the rising frequency and ferocity of wildfires in California. It emphasizes, in the face of such natural disasters, the need of readiness, moral behavior, and community resilience. Voting machine manipulation. Many fans couldn't help but recall The Simpsons as allegations of voting machine tampering began to occupy front stage in previous elections. In Treehouse of Horror 14, there's a scene where Homer tries to vote for Barack Obama in a rigged voting machine, only for his vote to be hilariously switched to John McCain. The machine even mocks him as he repeatedly tries to make his voice heard. It was merely a humorous exaggeration at the time, but years later, it more nearly reflected reality. Fast forward to 2020, and accusations of tampered voting machines became a hot-button issue during the US presidential election. While there's been no concrete evidence to support widespread manipulation, the mere existence of these claims speaks to how fragile trust in democracy can feel. Some see tools of mistrust in machines meant to make voting more efficient. What makes The Simpsons take so memorable is how it blends absurdity with an underlying truth. When technology is involved, people will always worry about who controls it. Curling champions. Who would have thought The Simpsons would call the most unexpected Olympic moment in US? It's sports history. In Boy Meets Curl, Homer and Marge take up curling and, against all odds, end up representing the United States in the Olympics. But the kicker? They beat Sweden. Yes, Sweden, the curling powerhouse, to win gold. At the time, it was just a fun, quirky story. Then came the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang. The US men's curling team shocked the world by defeating Sweden in the gold medal match, marking the first ever Olympic curling title for the country. Led by John Schuster, a team that had been underestimated and written off pulled off one of the biggest upsets in Olympic history. It felt like a scene ripped straight from Springfield. Fans of The Simpsons couldn't help but connect the dots. Was this just another eerie coincidence, or did the show's writers tap into a future no one saw coming? Either way, it's a story of perseverance, unlikely victories, and just a sprinkle of Simpson-style absurdity. Who knew Homer and Marge would make such great sports forecasters? Smartwatches. Back in 1995, The Simpsons gave us Lisa's Wedding, a quirky glimpse into a futuristic 2010 where technology had taken over daily life. Among the many gags was a scene where Lisa's fiancé casually chats into his watch to make a call. At the time, it seemed like pure sci-fi, something straight out of a comic book or a James Bond movie. Who would have guessed that just 2 decades later, the Apple Watch and other smartwatches would make this a reality? What makes this moment so fascinating is how effortlessly The Simpsons turned a silly joke into something that now feels totally normal. Sure, their version was more comedic. A guy talking to his wrist still looked ridiculous. But today, the idea of sending texts, tracking fitness, or even paying for coffee using a watch doesn't feel weird at all. It's just another day in the modern world. 3D food. In the 2005 episode Future Drama, The Simpsons dished out a wild glimpse into the future, complete with a food machine that could instantly whip up a slice of cake. Back then, it was a hilarious bit of sci-fi absurdity, because who wouldn't want a button that just makes dessert? But today, 3D food printers are turning that joke into reality. Fast forward to now, and we're seeing 3D printers crafting everything from pasta to plant-based meats. High-end chefs are experimenting with intricate designs, while companies are looking to solve global food challenges with printable meals. Even NASA's using the technology to make customizable food for astronauts. It's not quite as cartoonish as Homer scarfing down Instacake, but it's pretty close. What's wild is how The Simpsons often takes these outlandish ideas and, years later, they end up being a thing. Whether it's dessert on demand or a futuristic way to revolutionize dining, this is another case of Springfield's finest, giving us a sneak peek at tomorrow. Let's be real. If 3D food machines ever hit kitchens worldwide, Homer would probably try to print an entire roast pig and eat it in one sitting. Lady Gaga Super Bowl. Back in 2012, The Simpsons aired the episode Lisa Goes Gaga, where Lady Gaga visits Springfield to perform a wild concert. In true Gaga style, she descends from the sky, suspended by cables, while decked out in a silver, futuristic outfit. At the time, it was peak Simpsons silliness, until it actually happened. Fast forward to 2017, and Lady Gaga's Super Bowl LI halftime show had everyone doing a double take. Gaga opened her performance by literally descending from the stadium roof, cables and all, while rocking an over-the-top ensemble. It was such a perfect mirror of her Simpsons cameo that fans couldn't help but wonder if Springfield had done it again. Whether it was just a crazy coincidence or another uncanny moment of Simpsons fortune-telling, one thing's clear: they totally nailed her vibe. Gaga's larger-than-life style and penchant for the unexpected made the connection impossible to ignore. Call it predictive genius or just a playful nod to her iconic flair, but once again, The Simpsons managed to blur the line between comedy and reality. Tiger Attack. Back in 1993, The Simpsons aired the episode Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling. In it, Springfield gets its own casino, complete with a flashy magician duo, clearly inspired by Sigfried and Roy. During their act, the duo's white Bengal tiger has a moment of rebellion and attacks one of them, a classic Simpsons gag played for laughs. Fast forward to 2003, and that joke became eerily real. During a live Las Vegas performance, Roy Horn of Sigfried and Roy was mauled by their white Bengal tiger, Manticora. The attack left Roy severely injured and partially paralyzed, effectively ending the duo's iconic act. What was once a Springfield punchline suddenly became a chilling real-life event. It's one of those moments where The Simpsons walks the fine line between satire and accidental prophecy. The show exaggerated the danger for comedic effect, but the real-life incident proved just how unpredictable working with wild animals can be. Pandemic panic. In the 1993, The Simpsons episode Marge in Chains, Springfield faces a chaotic outbreak of the Osaka flu, brought to town by a germ-infested shipment of juice looseners from Japan. As the virus spreads, Springfield citizens spiral into panic, demanding a cure. Things hit peak absurdity when a mob tips over a truck they think contains a miracle antidote, only to unleash crates of killer bees instead. Classic Simpsons, right? Fast forward to 2020, and the parallels became almost too real. The world faced the COVID-19 pandemic, an infectious disease originating in Wuhan, China, and panic swept through every corner of the globe. Adding to the chaos, the US reported sightings of murder hornets, or Asian giant hornets, causing a bizarre overlap with the Simpsons episode. Social media went wild, claiming the Simpsons had once again predicted the future. But here's the thing. While the similarities are eerie, episode writer Bill Oakley clarified that the Osaka flu storyline was inspired by the 1968 Hong Kong flu, not an attempt at prophecy. Still, it's hard to ignore how well the show satirizes human behavior in a crisis, mass hysteria, misinformation, and all. Whether it's uncanny prediction or just timeless comedy, The Simpsons nailed the chaos of a pandemic long before the real one hit. What do you think about these predictions? Are the Simpsons writers just very good at predicting, or is there something else behind this streak of theirs? Please share your thought with us in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time with something completely different.